is up, guys? Hello. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Come on in. Come on in. Hope you guys had a beautiful Sunday. I had the best Sunday ever. Cheers. I'll be doing my Karen Read Live after this one. Beep, beep, bitch. Okay. Well, I just want people to get their panties all in a tiz whiz, so we're going to start off with a bang. This is the motion to suppress the USB search warrant, which, look at, Bryan's phone was taken from Pennsylvania, and his phone, so the USB search warrant is after the content of defendant's cell phone was copied onto the USB drive, but not reviewed by the FBI. The USB was sent to Detective Mowry, who stored it in the forensic lab at the Moscow Police Department. Detective Mowry then applied for a warrant to search the contents of the USB. So again, we are talking about who, how, what, where, when, Dateline, bringing us pictures, supposedly from Bryan Kohberger's phone, right? Well, this is a huge, big piece of a motion to suppress due to, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what do you mean the FBI had his shit and he did what? The FBI didn't look at anything before there was a warrant? Okay. So, yeah, let's just remind everybody that. Like, now, the next thing I want to remind everybody about is, do you guys remember when Ann Taylor put in a motion to unseal the IGG brief? She put in a motion on January 13th, 2025, defendant's motion to unseal the IGG suppression briefing and hearing. You guys remember that? Well, you guys remember what the state said? Oh my God, what? Wait, what? You guys, you want to do what? The state had a huge problem with it, remember? So let's get this straight. There you go. Let's get this straight. The people who wanted everything sealed, who was that? The state. The state wanted everything sealed, right? Yes. And Ann Taylor's over here trying to say, hey, remember I said I want the Frank's hearing brief, I want the IGG, I want all these fucking motions that were sealed. Okay, Hippler, unseal them, right? Did you see Ann Taylor go out there and give them to people so that they would make their way on the internet into the world? Has anybody to this day seen the motion, all the filings that Ann Taylor put, the IGG suppression briefing? Have you guys seen that? I know I haven't seen it. Okay, again, look at this. January 13th, 2025. Huge problem. Right? State has a huge fucking problem. Like, wait, what? What? No, we're not gonna unseal this shit. Why? The related briefs are: 1, the memorandum in support for motion to suppress genetic information with attached exhibits filed under seal on 11/18/2024. 2, sealed objection to defendant's motion to suppress genetic information with attached exhibits filed under seal on 12/6/2024. Hey, all those badasses, where's fucking Dateline? Go get me these, Dateline. Go get all this. Such badasses over there. Go ahead, go get all this. Can you lower the brightness? No, actually looks good to me. Crystal, what's good? 5 to the transparency memberships. Thank you. So where's this at? Where's the number 3? Then we have number 3 is the reply to state's objection to defendant's motion to suppress and memorandum in support. I want that memorandum. Where is all that? Where's this? They need they need this tip to be, you guys, hey, we need a way to tell the jury how we got to this man, because we have so much evidence against him. That's fucking crazy, don't you think? So here, Dateline, go give me my shit. Due to national and international attention to this case and in the interest of protecting Mr. Kohberger's right to a fair trial, many pleadings in this case have been sealed appropriately pursuant to Idaho Administrative Rule 32. Mr. Kohberger has a right to a public trial, and sealing a suppression hearing is a clear violation of this right to a public trial. Unseal this shit now. Now. Fucking want to put out fucking Google pictures from a phone. Are you out of your fucking minds? You guys want to put out videos from the camera that's right next to the murder scene? That's okay. But meanwhile, we can't get some facts here. Yeah, go get me these 4. Lana does not have flawed logic. Fuck no, I don't. Go give me my shit, Dateline. You heard? Go give me my shit. This is what I want. In addition to Mr. Kohberger's right to a public trial, the public has a First Amendment right to know what goes on in its courts. Again, if you just joined us, the leak, well, let me tell you something. The FBI had Bryan Kohberger's phone and put in all of its contents on it and put it onto a USB drive. But guess what? The FBI said that they didn't review it. The FBI would never do something like that. The USB was sent to Detective Mowry. He was questioned about this. He had no fucking idea where it and how it was transported or anything like that. But the contents of this phone allegedly came out on Dateline. How? Awesome. Let's just remind everybody here, the way in which the IGG material was accessed and used is a matter warranting public disclosure and should not be shielded from public's right to know. This matter is of utmost importance to Mr. Kohberger's right to a public hearing. Holding the hearing in open court will not prejudice the parties, and this should be held in open court. The issues raised are legal issues, and cases with similar interests or issues are being decided in other states. The issues raised in Mr. Kohberger's suppression motions are those that were discussed in the public hearing on the first motion to compel. Additionally, the way in which IgG occurred in this case has been made public in other cases. Oh, the Golden State Killer. Do you guys know who just hit the waves and did an interview? None other than CeCe Moore the other day. Do you want to know what she said in this interview? Very, very quickly, a couple words. She said that the FBI went and got permission to go and search other databases in this case. Well, if they did all that and that's what they did, then why wouldn't you be using it, saying it, and then that's just how it is? CeCe Moore came out and said that in this case, that the FBI went and got permission to use all these other databases. Really? Really? I call bullshit. Because if that was true, don't you think, like they've used in all these other cases, that they would just have put IgG down on the probable cause affidavit and just, duh, that's how we got to him. It's like not a big fucking deal. You know what I mean? DNA in a sheath. There was no hidden CODIS. We put it in. Well, I think what's going to come out and be really interesting here is when we talk about why you didn't put other things into to go get other profiles that were unknown. So with that said, next, Dateline had a very interesting timeline that they were trying to talk about. And so I wanted to go back and look at some of the stuff that I did. But first, I want to... Oh, by the way, this is the motion that objection to defendant's motion to unseal the IgG. Don't you guys want to hear how the state feels about this? Comes now the state of Idaho by and through the Latah County Prosecutor's Office and objects to defendant's motion to unseal the IgG suppression briefing and hearing. Why? Why? The state does not oppose unsealing the IgG suppression briefing and record of the hearing, but the court should wait to unseal until after the trial to protect both parties' right to a fair trial and the ability to select a fair and impartial jury. Are you fucking kidding me? (1/17/2025). This is where the state was, right? This is where Hitler was, right? As defendant notes, the national and international attention in this case have led to the sealing of many pleadings. As defendant also notes, sealing those records has been proper under Idaho Administrative Rule 32. Yeah, the ones that were sealed, sure. Not all this shit. Defendant argues that this court is required to unseal the IgG information pursuant to his right to a public trial. While his right to a public trial can extend to a suppression hearing, that right is not absolute. A court can close a public hearing, including a suppression hearing, if there is an overriding interest that is likely to be prejudiced. The closure is no broader than necessary to protect that interest, and the court has considered reasonable alternatives. The need to protect the jury pool in a high-profile case where the evidence considered may not come in at a trial. That's why I'm saying it. Ready? May not come in. Well, guess what? I believe what Dateline put out is not coming in. What if I told you guys that? Ever think about that? Think about it. Ooh. The risk of exposing jurors to information that may be deemed inadmissible is particularly strong. Let me tell you something. Everything that was seen on Dateline, okay, those pictures, what's the relevancy in those pictures? How are those pictures relevant? I personally believe that you'd have a hard time getting those pictures in. For what purpose? So the state's saying, hey, people that think that Bryan Kohberger wore a WSU hoodie to go kill 4 people or kill 1 and then ended up killing 4 people, that's absolute fucking ludicrous. Absolute fucking ludicrous. So we're just going to start saying things like, hey, here we go. All right. Let's take a look. This is December 21st, okay? December 21st. He's got the WSU. This is all alleged that this was from. And I was looking at the background of the picture, and I thought this was very similar on December 21st to this photo on November 27th. This is the white card that's missing that night from here. And now let's talk about a real good timeline. Now, let's talk about this relationship here. This is a potential relationship. Ready? Let's be honest. Okay, so this girl likes Bryan, right? What do girls usually do when they like somebody? They usually do things, okay? They usually do things to get the boy's attention. And so after I heard this most ridiculous story as to the girl said that somebody got into her apartment, okay, and rearranged weird things in the apartment and mentioned her cake being now in the microwave, okay? And that she went then, going to Bryan and saying, oh my God, can you help me? Well, isn't that a really interesting way to like get a guy? Like, I'm going to go tell this guy that somebody, like my apartment was all rearranged and oh my God, come be my knight in shining armor, right? So that I can spend time with him. Has anybody, heard of people doing that before? Happens a lot. So Bryan has this girl. I'm going to give you guys a different timeline here. So here we go. They work together. So, office, right? Then she makes advances. And then she's talking about her apartment and this weird ass shit that's happening, right? And then now, what if Bryan says to himself, oh my God, I think something's up with this chick. Like, dude, if somebody told me and came to me and said, oh my God, somebody came in my apartment and rearranged everything and put a cake in a microwave, and that I just made that cake and I put it in the refrigerator, I would never, why would I put my cake in a microwave? Okay, wouldn't you go to the fucking police? I've always said this. You would go to the police. You would 100% go to the police. But I'm not going to go to the police. Did she go to the police? I don't know. Did she? But then Bryan begins to start. So whatever she's talking about to him and making like more like advances, like I really like him. Whatever she's talking about to him, well, all the things that he was Googling, how do we know they didn't come from like him being like, what the fuck about this chick? I don't know what people are into sexually. Like maybe this girl likes to be, you know, she's talking about, who knows? You guys, why would Bryan Kohberger, if he's supposedly trying to get a piece, why wouldn't he smash with her? Why wouldn't he hook up with her? No, he started distancing himself. And then let me tell you what people do when when girls feel rejected, what do they do? I mean, how about Bryan texted that broad Holly one time? She didn't text back. He didn't text her again, right? So let's talk about let's talk about something that was brought up again by Kaylee's parents. I mentioned this 2 years ago when I did a timeline. I did a timeline I went through Maddie and Kaylee's text or social media. And I was able to locate, and I said, you know, there was a time period here where Kaylee and Maddie were definitely not talking. And weird things were happening. Okay. So I'm going to remind you guys of this time. And so here we go. All right. This is a post from 2021, September of 2021. And this is what led me on this path back in the day, because I noticed that Kaylee had wrote, when people do this, it's very weird and everybody knows it. But for Kaylee to comment, so if you go check out this post, it was posted and it will say something like, I think it's like 190 weeks. And when you go and look at Kaylee's post, it says 166 weeks. Okay. So it was 192. And then hers is 166. So this post is made. And then literally this post comes in and says, what does it mean exactly? Game days are back, and you know what that means. Hashtag happy girls. What does it mean exactly? Again, almost 30 weeks later, 25 weeks. So it was a post that she made in September. Kaylee does not comment on this until March of 2022. Now, the Gonzalez's just did an interview and said that Kaylee and Maddie got into some ridiculous fight and they didn't talk for like, I don't know, 4-6 weeks or something like that. But they never talked about what it was about. And so I did some math and I think I found something out. I knew that they weren't talking. It was obvious in social media land. But I want to show you something. All right. So when Maddie started dating Jake, they first started dating in 2021, and it was official in April. Okay. And so, but Maddie posts this in April of 2022, and it was 1 year with my best friend. Life is so much sweeter with you in it. I love you lots. And she put There was like something like 5 or 6 pictures, okay? And Kaylee's comment is, your guy's kid is so cute. And it was to this picture out of it all, okay? And so then I looked at another one and I said, interesting. I looked at out of those pictures, I saw that one of them was, see how this is Las Vegas? Okay, so Jake, she's taking the picture. They're in Las Vegas. And this was part of the April 27th post. So here, Kaylee's sister got married in August of 2021. And it was something that happened before that wedding because Maddie wasn't going to go to the wedding. Okay? Maddie wasn't going to go to the wedding. And something had happened. And Kaylee was like, if she's going, then I'm out. I'm not going. And so I had a friend today call me and ask me, Lana, what would cause us for me to ever want to punch you in the face? Okay. I said, are you talking about what I think you're talking about? She says, yeah. Okay. Meaning the interview. And I was like, I already told everybody about this like 2 years ago. I said, what would you fight about? What would people that have like been besties from jump, right, fight about? Well, it would have been Maddie's birthday in so Maddie ends up bringing Jake to as what I believe is Maddie's +1 to Olivia's wedding. Okay. And so leading up to this, when do you usually find out when you get an invite to a wedding and you respond and say you're taking somebody, right? So if I back up the time frame of this whole ordeal, you're dealing with a living situation. You're dealing with either A, when Maddie went and lived off campus and moved into the King Road house, and were they supposed to move in together? Okay. Or something happened right after Maddie's birthday in 2021, because that's when it all goes like silent until the post in August. Which led me to believe that, well, if I'm announcing and saying that I'm going to take somebody, we were supposed to go to Vegas and have like, it was supposed to be like a girls trip. What the fuck? Like, I'd be pissed about that, but pissed about it. Like how? Like if I'm extremely pissed, it has to be like a reason that I don't want him to go, or I mean, or it's a living situation. Because then, out of the blue, Kaylee decides to write and tell Blaker that she lives at King Road House when she doesn't live there. It's kind of weird, right? Also, in the same month that she writes Maddie about in March of 2022 and saying what's game days mean, that's the same month, March of 2022, that they're looking into Bryan Kohberger purchasing a knife. You want to talk about like weird timelines? Where's my other pick? Oh yeah, here. Look at this. I also realized that Kaylee is all about numbers. Okay. So Kaylee says in May of 2022 that I wouldn't have wanted anyone else to be the main character in my life, my childhood stories. See you at the bars in 14 days, 14 minutes, and 14 seconds. I love you. And so I did the math on that, and that's going to be June 8th is 14 days. But here, Maddie is going and living in Boise for the summer with Jake. And so I'm curious where they're going to be meeting up at the bars in 14 days because Maddie is in Boise. So is she going to Boise to hang out? Kaylee then moves in to the house in June. Dylan moves in the summer. Xana, same thing. Bethany, same thing, right? Now, the night of the murder, we find out through Dateline that Maddie's best friend is allegedly now Ashlyn Couch. And I'm like, what the fuck? Yes, they were all friends from CDA. All right, they all went to the same school, same area, awesome. But Kaylee was also friends with them. All right. And allegedly on the night of the murders, Ashlyn was saying how she didn't go to Moscow because she stayed home to watch her parents' dogs. What? Her parents' dogs. Now, we found out through the grapevine that Ashlyn Couch's dad is the guy that was in the house from one of the clips. Give a shout out. Larissa Harris, baby. Jean. Beth, new member. Linda, new member. Lori, new member. Karen, Jean. Crystal buying memberships. Noelle buying 10 memberships. Everybody's turning green in this month. Noelle, whoop, whoop, $49.99. What? Did you hit that thumbs up? I know Noelle always tells me what thumbs up it is. Dana Lynn, 20 memberships. A lot of people just turned green. Almost 50 of you people. My green peeps, where you at? Turn on your gifting memberships. So yeah. So Ashton was supposed to be there, but she stays back to allegedly, I'm going to stay back because I have to dog sit. You're telling me that the parents, we know that the parents would have had somebody that could have dog sat because Ashlyn Couch has been away in college for 4 years and her parents clearly would have had to have other people to rely on. Okay. So Couch doesn't go. Now, Kaylee comes, and when Hunter Johnson says in the 911 call, he says, poor Kaylee. I, for the longest time, was like, what the fuck? Why wouldn't it be poor Maddie, poor Xana, poor Ethan, poor Kaylee, poor everybody, right? Poor Kaylee. You guys heard that, right? I suck at the lottery too. Poor Kaylee. Poor Kaylee. Poor Kaylee. At first I thought it was, okay, it has to do something with the injuries. But I'm like, dude, everyone was stabbed. I don't care if one person was punched and the other people weren't. Like at the end of the day, like, oh my God, like all these people were stabbed to death, right? Unless people think that he didn't really say that. But if you think that it says, poor Kaylee, if you think that that's what it says, and that's what he says, it almost seems like Kaylee wasn't supposed to be there. Like if like a thought process of, well, gosh, Kaylee comes down, and if she didn't come down, this would have never happened. Or like I just kept saying, like, why would it just be poor Kaylee? I mean, Ashley Banfield asks Steve about it. Okay. And I'm telling you right now that to me now means that Kaylee wasn't part of this. Kaylee wasn't supposed to be there. Kaylee, that's not her room. Okay. If the killer went in, and this is what Steve Gonsalves said from the get-go, that there was one person that they thought had been acting strange, recently. Well, they don't know any of these people other than Maddie. Okay. And so I think the Gonsalveses meant Maddie. I've always thought that. But that Kaylee wasn't supposed to be there. That means that the kill, like Christy said, somebody went in there to kill one person and ended up killing 4. Okay. In one of her interviews. And I said, well, why the fuck wouldn't you kill 5 and 6 then? If they were truly where they say that they were. Why wouldn't you kill the other people? Like, I'm sorry, but now the new Dateline theory has emerged that Xana goes upstairs and goes into Maddie's room, sees the killer, and then runs downstairs and tries to make it to her room and basically doesn't. Okay. And is attacked there, and Ethan's, and so that, do you understand how sloppy that would be if all of a sudden, like, you have to get from, if this is like the theory, right? That the killer would just be in the middle of what? Killing whoever in that room, then chasing Xana. Xana would have been screaming, right? I mean, oh my God, right? Like, would you not be, if you tried to go this route, you'd be running down the stairs screaming, and that's when Dylan says, I thought what I heard was Kaylee playing with her dog. She came down the stairs, then she went back up the stairs, and then she came back down the stairs. And that's when Ann Taylor's like, that couldn't have happened. That's not the state's theory. And there's a big problem with that because of the order of the deaths, according to the state. So now there's this whole big thing that, the killer went chasing after Xana to go into that room. And also, one of the people on Dateline is saying that there is no blood in any other room except for the 2 rooms where the killings were. And I'm like, what the fuck are these people talking about? I mean, so they believe in the probable cause being complete shit because there was a print that was found a couple days later that was outside the room of Dylan. And so I'm over here just like, these people are just, all they're doing is throwing up theories. They're throwing up theories. Okay. But do you know what type of commotion that would be? Now, the killer went for the legs of Ethan. They want to use the word carved, carved up his legs. They went for a main artery, and then basically when you want to, how do people move? You have to move your legs. So you take somebody's legs out, right? This is somebody that would have had a lot of knowledge. And this is really, really quick thinking and reacting. But I'm telling you, this would have been it would have been messy in the point of that, like this knife that if you're saying it's just one knife doing all of this damage, would have been flailing down the stairs, running down, chasing somebody who you have no idea where they ran to because you don't know the house. So when Xana would have ran down, and then all the while you have Dylan opening and closing her door, and she's not taken out. Nor does she witness a guy chasing her roommate. I mean, you would have heard more than just, you know what that would have sounded like down those fucking stairs? The military teaches you that. Self-defense teaches you that. Police combat teaches you that. Military, any type of combat teaches you how to, like, what you'd want to go for. But this brings me back then to the whole beginning of everything, which was when this case first hit the streets. We looked at a couple different things and we said, okay, if somebody would have been staking out this house, right? The night of the murders, there is a new Range Rover. Nobody would have known who that was, as well as the SUV that belongs to Ethan's family. Now the question is was that there prior to the cops sealing it off? And I mean, I don't know. My gut says yes. But so you have a parking lot full of cars, even more so than we've ever seen than on the nights or the days that I've shown the body cam, where there's only normally like just that row, like 4 cars there. Here you would have had 4 cars plus a 5th, but one of the 4th cars wouldn't have been any of the ones that you would have ever known. It's Parents Weekend going on in WSU's campus, okay? Could one of the cars belong to a parent? It's the final home game for football. Who's in town? There's a lot of risk in that, right? And so you just think you're going to go inside and the target was Maddie and you're just going to go right to that room. And now how would you ever know that was Maddie's room out of the rooms? I went through Maddie's entire Instagram and no way in hell from her Instagram could you tell which room was Maddie's. In fact, you would think that her room was the room with the balcony. So this brings me to 4chan. Dateline source is 4chan. But who's 4chan? Who used such disgusting language but was almost point on with like everything that was popping off? Right? How is the person not responsible for all the 4chan posts not a suspect? If you were a detective and you were reading this shit, you'd be like, holy shit, who the fuck is posting this? This is, I mean, It all happened in 19 minutes. Except the motive with 4chan is different. 4chan isn't saying that it's a a serial killer or anything like that. 4chan is saying that this stems from what? From something that had been brewing for a while. If you're Aunt Taylor, wouldn't you? So let me back up and let me ask this question. It would have behooved law enforcement to figure out who was responsible for the 4chan posts. You can do that. You can attempt to try to figure that out, right? So when you would have done that, you would have developed a report, okay? You would have, drawn up the report, wrote everything out, possibly interviewed this person, or at least to the point of like, we're surveying this person, right? What's the first date of the 4chan post? Is there anything before 12/12/2022? This is really important for a timeline. We were looking through our stuff, and can anybody find anything dating before 12/12/2022 that's by the anonymous 4chan poster? The 4chan poster even knew Maddie's boyfriend was bald, yep, but more importantly, they knew his fucking nickname, right? And this is going to tie into what I'm saying back before about when Maddie got this boyfriend. Fortune. So does anybody have a date prior to 12/12? Nobody? Then the poster says that the person is long gone and they are in the Poconos. Do you guys remember that? Let me show you. Okay. Okay, do you remember this? That was 12/9/2022. Mask. Okay. You'll never find where they went and the weapons are too far down. I want to check every recent purchase of chapstick in the area. Also, this is a horrible way to make a thread. OP, there are a couple decent templates. Okay, blah, blah, blah. That's not them. Okay. On Friday, December 9th, for the fucking last time, you fucking new fags, is there an influx of autistic fucking 16-year-olds on the site now? Says autistic. No, it wasn't a drug cartel, lol. Ethan wasn't some big middleman drug guy. No. No, an electric dirt bike wasn't used. Dylan isn't a tranny. I'm not paid by the JIDF, Jesus Christ. It's not a hoax, you flat earthers, disconnected from reality faggots. Jews, I mean, this person just uses crazy ass language, right? Crazy fucking language. It isn't a fucking loser incel. I'm not the murderer, you dumb cunts. The fuck? He says autistic again. He says he's not a effing pro lawyer student, you autistic American psycho assholes. I know Patrick wasn't a lawyer. He wasn't waiting in the attic for 4 hours. You Reddit wine kitty moms. It's not an effing cop. Officer K-Bar, it wasn't a drug cartel. Most of the theories have been dog shit. Dylan is so insecure around these other sluts. Jesus, these people are crazy. On Friday, December 9th. Friday. Whoopsies. Hold on. Friday, December 9th. Wondering if someone in this pic drives a white Honda Elantra. So Friday the 9th. This is what I say. So the police and the families of the murdered kids said that the perpetrator did a very sloppy job. If that's so, then why hasn't they caught anyone yet? Let's see. Where's this other one? Okay. Those former special ops guys showing up at the house last night is interesting. Any chance we'll ever get to see the crime scene pics? The 9th of December. So that would be first for night vision goggles. Remember they were talking about that he had a kill kit? It is time to recognize something. This is clearly a serial killer. It's been almost a month and no suspects or anything. Newsflash, re. There is a legit serial killer on the prowl. The police don't have a clue. The car is a red herring. They needed to feed the public some absolute BS because of the blowback they are getting from the families and middle-aged housewives. Listen, Ree, why do you think the FBI is sending in so many people in this? Because they have nationwide capabilities and they know it's a serial killer. Okay, ready? I think the girl with the fat titties orchestrated the killings as a final FU prior to leaving Idaho. Something just doesn't sit right with her. What? Miss Potts would love that. It's obviously some kind of serial offender profile. Then again, I thought the same thing of the Delphi murders. But in this case, it seems inconceivable that anyone well known to the victims could have gotten away even 1 week after committing this type of a crime. Let's see. Where was the other one that I liked? Mm. No, that's when you call in the state police. Going straight to the FBI means this is some sketchy, spooky shit. No one knows who did it. Wow. Okay. I mean, Friday, December 9th is just off the fucking chain. Um, with no previous noise and Ethan probably at least somewhere drunk asleep, the killer would have all the time in the world to line up a kill shot and eliminate the only legit threat. 1 to 2 power stabbings, dig into the heart, lungs, neck with a big fuck off blade like that would do the trick. Then get Xana quickly before she screams. The Dateline's source. The local and state police have been too busy targeting brown people with their increased presence over the last month to do their jobs. I'm a Native Asian Hispanic woman who works on campus, and I've been stopped repeatedly for no reason. I'm sad and scared about the murders in my small town of Moscow, but also frustrated that so many missing indigenous don't get nearly the attention. Some druggy sorority mean girls and a boyfriend get whacked, and national news is all over it. I just don't understand. That town is so fucking. This person is crazy. Next. All right, so I want to show you guys a video. AIDS. And he says that him, upon his arrival, Payne and myself observed the music coming from 1122 Queen Road. This would be the second time we received a noise complaint at this residence. Now, when you actually listen to this body cam, they can't tell where the noise is coming from. Check it out.
I hear music. I can't tell where it's coming from.
Right there, they can't tell where it's coming from. They also park immediately when you turn onto Queen.
Same people as before?
Now, one of the officers asked the other officer if this is the house that you were at before, and they say no. Then I went ahead and looked at the first complaint, and it was Dustin Baker, M108, then it was Jordan Welch, M178, and then it was Brett Payne. Okay, first of all, do you see where they park? They park always away from it. They don't ever pull up to the driveway. They turn off their lights, okay, and they park. Now, if you go and look at the FBI report, and they're following down those headlights, right? And it's just like these headlights. There's no car coming into the King Road area, but the headlights just kind of like nothing happens, and then we see headlights. Okay, are heading south now, and then they're north, and then they're south, but nothing's coming into the King Road area. Well, who's notorious for doing this? This is how cops don't come and pull up right to where you're going. Cops never pull in unless you're at the Karen Reed case. And so why would they park all the way back there? Who's notorious for knowing how to shut off lights and when they're doing all of that?
Their officer, if this is the house that you were at before, and they say no. Then I went ahead and looked at the first complaint, and it was Dustin Baker, M108. Then it was Jordan Welch, M178, and then it was Brett Payne,
There's a white car.
157, M157. Those are the three.
Okay, look at how dark this is. I want to remind everybody of how fucking dark this is. Okay, look at this. This is so dark. You can't see anything.
It's the same one. Huh? It's the same one.
And now they confirmed to one another that this is the same one. This is the same one. Yep.
Okay, those blue lights though, hold on.
Then I went ahead and looked at the CAD notes for this call right here, and it says that responding officers, Jordan Welch, M1.
That's the 1112 house.
178, Jason House, M140. House was not at the first call. Also, there is
Now they're walking, now they just kind of turn their bodies. So now you're walking straight onto, okay, like to the house. You guys, I mean, look at how dark this is. They don't even have their flashlights out yet, right?
no Brett Payne anywhere on the main radio log table.
Okay, the reason I talk about this and talk about that there's no Brett Payne is because I would have never known that Brett Payne ever went to this noise complaint, because Brett Payne, on all the reports and all the CAD notes and the dispatch logs and everything like that, he never registered as going there. He never clocked himself as going to this location. So
It was as he never responded. Check it out. Okay,
okay, so right here.
Right here, this is the first call log.
See how he is M157? So this is the first one.
This is the first time they were there. See, it works back.
See, 2107 is 907. They got there at 834. Okay, so this is like the first time they went
backwards. 2034.
And you read it from the bottom up.
Hours, 21 seconds. M108, you see M178, you see M157. Unidentified females walking towards me. I stopped the group of females and asked them if they could get someone who lived at the residence to come talk to us.
So we know
unidentified male. To
we
report
know all that.
J. Welch 178, Friday, September.
So this is how they used to write their reports. They don't do this anymore. No. So like these over here mean like assigned, complete, entered, arrived, cleared. So then let's look at the second one. Okay, so this is the second one. Do you see how it says Officer Jordan Welch?
Sir.
So see 1228.
Now this is where things get interesting. 029 hours.
So remember when Xana talks to Brett Payne, okay, you would read this and you would see that Brett Payne was never there, according to their reporting. Okay. And so this was important for, I personally think, for here's your lead investigator, detective, whatever you want to call him on the case. And we all know that he's new and doesn't know shit, if you want my opinion, but he didn't even register that he was going there, that he was there, that he spoke to anybody.
there's a call. Then the en route, M178, M140. However, would directly contradict the write-up in the CAD notes.
So this guy, though, outs it all when he says, upon my arrival, Payne.
On 9/2/2000.
And that's how I was like, wait a second, what?
Reported a home playing loud country music. Upon my arrival.
So look at that. That's that car that's always parked right up there. I mean, you're dealing with so many freaking cars that are white around there. This is the house. That's the 1112 when you're walking up. So
this would be the second time.
That's the blue. And then
said no. Payne explained that this was the second time we have been dispatched to the home.
And then I show this other body cam angle.
But there are only 2 people on that log.
And so when Payne tries to say that he arrives at 4:00 or something like that on the day of the murders, I call that Ann Taylor needs to really look at that, because Brett Payne is notorious for just fucking not, not even acting like he's there.
Payne never logged in that he was going there. It just so happened that Welch put it in his paperwork. As you can see, the M140. That's why when you look at this and you see him clicking it.
So I made this video a long ass time ago. But if you can, just simply, why wouldn't you be registering that you're going there? Just weird. Next up. That's just also show you how dark it is. Okay. How dark it is. Next video. Again, I'm pulling stuff out from this vault of mine. Okay, November 27th was one of the pictures that Bryan Kohberger allegedly took, okay? So
who's responsible? So Chris McDonough of the interview room, he is at the scene on where the stabbings happened. And he made a community post on his YouTube channel. I want to share that with you here, and then we're going to discuss.
Okay. All right.
Chris McDonough claims he found a glove by the crime scene, by the house. So, do you think he's lying? Do you think he's telling the truth? What do you think this glove is about? Let's show the picture again.
Okay. Literally, look at this. This is the glove he's speaking of.
Looks like the glove is under some snow, so possibly been there for a while. I'm dumbfounded if the glove was there, why police didn't.
This isn't the glove that they said that they found. The glove that they said they found was on the 20th. Okay. Chris McDonough is still running around the streets saying that it's his glove that he found. That's the glove that is this big bloody glove. Okay. Like, this is just flat out. This is my Red Flag Project series. This is absolutely a fucking lie. Okay. This is a glove. Chris McDonough was there after Thanksgiving.
Get it earlier, right? You have a crime scene. You would think You would search the entire area around the home and pick up anything
that is talked about in the documents that would eventually come out in filed motions between the state and defense in the case, the state versus Bryan Kohberger. You know, the glove that was found on November 20th, 2022, and found to have unknown male DNA on it?
Blood.
Listen closely as to the date that Chris says that he found the glove.
It is a piece of potential evidence everybody is talking about online. The glove that the police almost missed. It was dropped, or it was thrown out outside the home where the 4 college students were stabbed to death in Massa. And there is a good chance that it would still be there right now. But for a former homicide detective turned podcaster who noticed it while he was actually visiting the scene on Thanksgiving, which is 11 days after the murders. Chris McDonough is a veteran of...
Now, I want to throw a twist on this. Ready for this? Well, in this whole entire case, there have been people, numerous. So once this began, all the way through, people have been trying to get platforms to release information and do it in a way that if, hey, it's not going to come back on anybody type of thing. Well, what are the odds that a glove with blood would be found? Okay. November 20th, and we can't put that out there that we know this, right? So let's go about it this way. Let's go ahead and who can we get to go ahead and say that this is how, so we can start talking about a bloody glove. Just think about how everything has come out in this fucking case. So go back to even this. And it's like somebody knew about obviously the glove and having blood on it, right? And here, let's figure out a way to put this out. Besides me just coming out and saying, hey, why don't we talk about all the blood that's in the house?
The Oceanside, California Police Department, and currently he's the director with the National Cold Case Foundation. He's also co-host of the podcast, The Interview Room, and he is live with me tonight. Detective, it's so good to have you. First of all, I am shaking my head as I even think I'm doing this interview with you. Take me there. Tell me what happened. You literally showed up and looked down and said, hello, gentlemen, come over here. Have you seen this? Is that really how simple this was?
Yeah, it really was, actually. I mean, it was my wife and I, it was Thanksgiving Day. We happened to be up here in Idaho. And I said to her, hey, let's just go over where that situation's taking place at the university to get some tape. And we're walking up the street, and the first thing that caught my attention, to be honest with you, was all of the cars still parked on the property. And then I looked over and I saw there was an officer controlling the scene sitting in his vehicle. And I looked to the left and I saw that what appeared to be a glove. And I looked at my wife and I said, is that a glove? And she goes, yeah, I think it is. And so about where Bryan was standing tonight, I walked over and looked over, and sure enough, it was a glove. And I immediately
you know what I'm going to do? I am going to, Chris, thank you for saying that. When we go back to Bryan in a little bit, I'm going to actually ask him to walk me to the exact spot so that
or plants and inserters.
Hold on.
Nothing. But it also could be very significant.
But nothing. Red Flag Project, Idaho4 case, episode 4, plants and inserters. Closing remarks here. It's very simple. The glove that has the male unknown DNA was found on November 20th. Chris McDonough just happened to be in the area and in Idaho and thought he would just drive by and go check out the scene and happened to find a glove. I'm with Jonathan Lee Riches on this one. Was it planted? Was it placed? He didn't know if it was a guy's glove or a girl's glove. Well, I don't give a shit what or whose glove it is and what brand it is. It has absolutely nothing to do with the Idaho4 case, and Chris McDonough was paraded around like a little show puppy, all while knowing that after when the documents came out, the November 20th glove that was found, sent to the lab, was not this glove. Chris McDonough's glove was found on November 24th. November 24th. He posts to social media for the first time, though, about it on November 28th. You know, again, that glove was from November 20th that was found by Idaho State Police forensic team and sent to the lab. This glove, out of the mouth of Chris McDonough, He found it with his wife on November 24th.
It's not. It's.
Period. End of
Period.
story. And he knew it the whole entire time.
And he's going around.
People do this. They insert themselves. Like Ashley Banfield said, he has a podcast. Podcasting about this case. Like, share, and subscribe to the
We bring the facts, nothing but the hits, nothing but the motherfucking hits. Next up, old school right here. Another favorite. I think it's this one. Oh, wait, hold on. Where is playlists? Playlist. Oh, there we go. Oh boy. Oh, I said this one has already played. Sorry, it's number 3. Sorry for the delay. Whoopsies.
at the cameras that are located in Moscow, Idaho, because of how important it seemed in the probable cause affidavit that the cameras were avoided. What I mean by that is it was really important for them to explain to us how Bryan drove around, or AKA the perpetrator drove around. And what I realized is it's not just the residential cameras and the importance of getting this nailed down. It's because of the cameras that law enforcement uses for traffic and things of that nature. And with that said, when you actually punch in 511 is a website that you can go to, which I'm on here right now, and you can locate.
So I fucking did this video years ago. To hear that Payne and them testify that they used 511 to do a couple different things in this case, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? If you would have to do that, that means you didn't go and get certain cameras.
All the cameras, the traffic cams in Moscow, Idaho. And I was looking at all the possible different routes that one would have to take to be able to avoid all of these cameras. And would you believe it? That no wonder why you're talking about Bryan coming from the 700 block of Indian Hills for the first time. You're taking this man, or whoever the perpetrator is, on a complete path to show that he avoided all of these cameras, that he knew about them and he avoided them. What it also shows to me is that you're saying that Bryan shut his phone off. Okay. So this person had to be so well equipped with either knowing the area, memorizing it, knowing it had drove it many times, or they had to have a different phone. They had to be able to have their route mapped out, knowing where to go, when to go, because in that probable cause affidavit, they are basically showing and explaining without saying it that, hey, none of our surveillance cams could get any of this. If you think about it, the only surveillance cameras that are not residential are the ones in Washington, in Pullman. And that's important. And we're going to talk about it. What I mean by that is the PCA, it uses, when you were talking about anything that has to do with sightings of the White Elantra in the Moscow area, it has to do with residential rings, whether they're, surveillance footage, but they're residential. Everything to map out the White Elantra. But when we're talking about other areas, I believe that they are using cameras that are non-residential. So my question is does it not alert you that if a car is going to make sure that it eludes all of the all of the commercial cameras, to include the traffic cams in Moscow, Idaho, wouldn't it do the same in Pullman, Washington? Wouldn't you avoid those cams? And it's interesting that you can use these cameras in Pullman to highlight this white Elantra, but you can't find any of your traffic cams to highlight this white Elantra because you say it takes some crazy way to get into Moscow, Idaho, that the first time you see it is in the 700 block of Indian Hills Drive. So I want to break down how one would have to travel in order to elude all of the cameras. And at the first time that you ever see this white Elantra, that it's on Indian Hills, 700 block. Again,
it's absolutely laughable. Okay. It's absolutely laughable. And Ann Taylor basically fucking calls Payne out on the fucking floor about it and says, so you know these places over here, like your exit points to get, in and out of Moscow. Do you would have footage of this Elantra leaving in some way with the places that she listed. And he looked at her like she had 9 fucking heads and no idea what the names of these places were and where she could find these videos. Where can I find these surveillance cameras in the Discovery? Okay, because she's covering the exit and entry points into Moscow. And he's over there like, what? And then she's like, where did you get the 700 block video from that you were claiming is Bryan Kohberger? Like, where did that video come from? And now, obviously, fast forward to the point that we're at right now, and we know that everything in Idaho to do with that car is bullshit. It's multiple vehicles, and it's going to be proven. And if they're saying that the Ridge Road 401 car is the car that goes in there at 407, 404, well, then they're pegging the green car. They are literally pegging the green car. So then you're putting the green car is entering in there. If you're saying it's the Ridge Road vehicle, everybody should understand that by now. So now back to the next thing. I mean, this was stuff that was eliminated so early on. And I just find it really just like the whole world's eyes were on this case. It's just it's baffling. Okay, I want to show you guys this latest. Where is it? This latest filing. I'm going to use Hector over here. God bless America. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me use this one first, though. You know, one of Mr. Kohberger's expert witnesses is, this is his book, Cellular Forensics for First Responders. It's like the dummy version of, like, I think Officer Payne needs to read this stat. I think it would help him. Like a lot. Maybe one day I'll just read it to you guys. Bryan Kohberger's personality test. Personality test. The green Elantra was sold. Does anybody know that Bryan Kohberger had a, well, on January 23rd, 2025, defendant timely disclosed guilty phase expert opinions by two mental health professionals who examined defendant and subsequently diagnosed him with various mental and behavioral conditions, including autism spectrum disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So everybody just wants to talk about, the ASD, well, OCD and ADHD. Following those disclosures, the state provisionally retained a psychologist to conduct an examination of defendant pursuant to and provided a report for rebuttal purposes. But guess what, guys? This person, the states also moved in limine to exclude the proposed penalty phase testimony by these two experts on grounds that their opinions did constitute a mental element defense and therefore did not fall within the scope. The court ultimately held that testimony by the two experts during the penalty phase would not be permitted, with limited exception unless defendant testifies at trial. Okay. So basically Hitler's like, yeah, well, if Bryan Kohberger wants to take the stand and testify, then we can then allow these people to testify. Wow. So on March 31st, 2025, defendant timely disclosed penalty phase expert opinions by 5 mental health professionals, including the 2 previously disclosed, regarding his various mental behavioral health conditions. The deadline for the state's penalty phase expert disclosures was set for April 28, 2025. On April 2nd, 2025, the state initiated communications with defense counsel about conducting an examination of defendant pursuant to. Defense counsel responded that same day requesting the name of the experts, the nature of the testing, and whether there was any objection to defense counsel being present for the exam. The following day, the state provided the information requested, including the proposal testing. Among tests listed was an assessment of personality structure. The state also objected to defense counsel being present. In response, defense counsel did not object to the evaluation, but did object to any testing outside the scope of what defendant's experts had conducted, specifically personality testing. She also asked the state to reconsider its position as to having counsel present during the examination. On April 7, 2025, the state responded indicating it would not remove personality testing from the proposed examination and would not agree to counsel being present during the examination except through a video feed or otherwise by having counsel shielded from defendant's view. On April 11, 2025, the state's mental health expert informed counsel he was not able to continue on the case. What? You guys, wait, what? Who just pieces out? April 11th, 2025. Peace. Dude, this is like, you could be like on the huge ass case and you're going to peace out after you say that you're going to like do this work. So approximately 1 week later, the state retained a replacement, Dr. Redacted, priceless, and informed defendant of such. The state indicated it still needed to discuss with specifics of the examination with their new doctor, including his position on having counsel present. On April 22nd, 2025, the state alerted defense counsel via email that their new doctor believed personality testing was warranted and objected to counsel's presence. The state also sought a stipulation to extend the rebuttal disclosures deadline for purposes of disclosing the doctor's opinion. Defense counsel responded that same day, objecting to the deadline extension, to personality testing, and to her exclusion from the room. On March 25th, 2025, the state filed the current motion. In the motion, the state seeking an order from the court for one, extending the deadline for its penalty phase rebuttal disclosures for 21 days following the completion of the state's expert examination. So let me ask you guys a question. What does any of this matter if we can't fucking use it? Why would you subject him to any of this if you're not able to use it for what you intended to use it for? That was the part of the Dateline episode that got totally like bulldozed over, is when Jill Bolton comes on and they ask Jill Bolton about certain shit. And Jill Bolton's a very liberal defense attorney. And yeah, she believes that this jury should know about his disability. He should not be put to death because of it, she said. The death penalty should not be there. But that the jury should know about him having being on the spectrum of autism. If you know how the way that jurors are, I mean, shit, they're over there having staring contests with fucking Richard Allen. I mean, who admits that? That is so childish. It's not, I mean, that girl, ugh. These jurors, these people, how do these people get on juries? I want to know why that one doctor pieced out. How do we even know it's true that that doctor pieced out? How do we know that that's even true? How do we know that the state didn't, like, Josh was like, I want to go with this other guy, so let's just act like he's not available. You know? Evaluating these factors, the court finds good cause has been shown for a limited extension to the deadline, while the state should have filed its motion to extend the deadline weeks sooner. The court is sympathetic to the fact that the state's mental health expert, who had been provisionally retained shortly after the defendant's guilt phase expert disclosures, decided to withdraw from the case just 2 weeks prior to the rebuttal disclosures deadline, leaving the state to scramble to retain another expert. You think that I believe that that's what the fuck happened? I don't believe that for a fucking second. No, no, and no. So Hitler's like, I understand, I sympathize that this expert, what expert would just peace out like that? Like, what? Okay. However, the state's request to extend the rebuttal disclosure deadline to 21 days after the examination runs the risk of prejudicing the defendant. Given the posture of this case, the volume of discovery, and the upcoming trial date, the court will not allow an extension to May 27, 2025. So the defendant has ample time to consider and potentially respond to the state's disclosure. The defendant shall be made available to the state's expert for examination within the next 7 to 10 days, thus leaving the doctor approximately 2 weeks to complete his report. Something's up with this. Something does not sit well. It wasn't until Joshua D. Hewitt came out of this that this was even being a thing. Personality testing will not be allowed. Well, let's hear why. The state seeks leave to allow its expert to conduct personality tests on defendant during the examination to confirm, rebut, or otherwise contextualize the neuropsychological conditions diagnosed by defendant's experts, particularly ASD. They think that these experts are lying. And Taylor got experts to lie. The state argues there is no basis to limit its doctor's professional judgment as to the appropriate areas of the examination, and further, defendant has opened the door by offering testimony about his lack of personality disorder. One of the defendant's forensic psychiatrists, Dr. Ryan, concluded in her expert report that defendant does not have a childhood history of behavior that is consistent with conduct disorder or antisocial personality disorder in adulthood, nor does he meet criteria for antisocial personality disorder. Ryan's report at page 49, attached as Exhibit 5 or S-3 to Hewitt declaration. Hurwitz. See, none of this came on until he came on. Ashley Jennings has yet to do a declaration. Dude, Ashley Jennings is just straight struggling. So he's not a psychopath, anything like that. But defendant objects, arguing personality tests exceed the scope of proper rebuttal. He points out his own experts did not perform personality testing or diagnose him with a personality disorder. Rather, his proffered evidence concerns his diagnosis of ASD, OCD, and ADHD, and his history of eating disorders and substance abuse. There it is. Eating disorders. He argues nature of personality testing violates his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. As both parties appear to agree, the scope of the state's examination of defendant is confined to purposes of rebuttal. So Do you guys understand where this could be leading? If Bryan Kohberger is dead set on testifying, okay, he can have these experts. Does everybody understand that? Otherwise, these experts will not be able to be used without the testimony of Bryan Kohberger. So think about this. Ann Taylor is still going forward with it, right? Can you believe that? Think about it. Is Bryan set to testify? This is for the guilt phase. Damn. I mean, in order for, think about it, if you're a lawyer, you would be telling your client, like, listen, we're going to subject you to having them test you, right? I think Ann Taylor should be able to be present, though. Gifted 5 Truth and Transparency memberships. Noel. Nurse Meg gifted 1 Truth and Transparency membership. TNT, work for truth, transparency, and due process. Yes. Member for 7 months. Thank you so much. Oh, what's up, Richard? How are you? Liz Tuplin? Thank you for the super sticker, $5. Whoop, whoop. Noel's turning everybody green tonight. Noel. Shake it, woman. Shake it, shake it. Happy Mother's Day, all the moms out there. Nurse Meg, welcome. Are you skiing? Oh, I love that picture. V Slims, 18 months, no way. That's 2 babies, right? Pam, 5 memberships. Again, Nurse Meg, new member. Dana, 20 memberships. Oh, and I already said those other ones. Everybody better be green in here. Wow. Okay, so the court agreed with the defendant's position, and the court says, and they concluded that the government could use, the court agreed, concluding that the government could use such tests only to the extent that the tests contain testing scales for substance abuse, and that the prosecution should be barred from introducing any materials that are outside the scope of mental health testing as it relates to substance abuse. The defendant subsequently objected to 4 tests the government intended to use, including a personality test, on the ground that those tests were, quote unquote, designed to indicate personality disorders and mental conditions, not mental condition related to substance abuse, and therefore exceeded the scope of any Fifth Amendment waiver. He's going to do a Fifth Amendment waiver. Wait, what the fuck is going on? According to the defendant, the personality testing proposed should not be allowed because it is not aimed at revealing proper rebuttal evidence. He points out that rebuttal evidence explains, rebels, or counters, or disproves, or evidence that has been introduced by or on behalf of the adverse party. So the state also notes that to the extent the testing strays from its rebuttal purposes in any respect, there is no prejudice to defendant because he will have a chance to object prior to admission of the evidence at trial. To this end, the state cites to various cases where courts have declined to impose strict limits on the scope of court-ordered psychological exams, observing that even if the examination exceeds the scope of reasonable rebuttal, it will not admit at trial. Well, the court's second and more significant concern is with the use of personality testing to rule out other diagnosis that may account for the same symptoms. This has the potential to generate new mental health diagnosis or other evidence outside the scope of defendant's Fifth Amendment waiver. While the state asserts that its expert does not intend to explore new diagnosis or mental health conditions, there is a fine line between ruling out other mental health conditions and exploring them. The danger of that line being crossed is too great and could lead to evidence that could be viewed as aggravating in nature, or at least make it difficult to parse the aggravating evidence from the mitigating. Moreover, considering that the court is allowing the state an extension of time to examine defendant and disclose its expert's opinions, time is of the essence. Any new potential diagnosis or evidence uncovered through personality testing may elicit the need for further testing. Insert rebuttal by defendant. Oh, what the fuck? Sixth Amendment says, we don't need you to be there, Anne. Don't worry. However, to equalize the playing field, the court will not allow defense experts to testify about whether defendant meets or historically met the criteria for personality disorder or reference the state's failure to conduct personality testing on defendant. In other words, defendant cannot use personality disorder or the asserted non-existence thereof and the lack of testing for it as a shield and a sword. Moreover, the court will not prohibit its expert from commenting on the fact that personality testing may have aided in his evaluation, but that testing was not performed by the defense experts nor available to him. In turn, the defendant may not assert or imply that redacted doctor could have conducted personality testing. Duh. This approach strikes a balance between ensuring defendant's rights are preserved while at the same time allowing the state a means for effective rebuttal within the time constraints posed by the extension. What the fuck is going on? Bryan Kohberger is going to testify? Oh my God. Woo! I'm there for it, man. Liz, thank you so much. $25 Cash App. Woo, woo. Happy Mother's Day. Thank you so much, Liz. You rock. LaDonna, your Staples trip. Aw. $30. You guys know I love my ink, my paper, and my pens. Aw. Candace, straight fucking fire. Happy Mother's Day, Lana. $50. Thank you so much. And then I had a PayPal on my Dow. Baby Dow. Tony, I love it. $24.25. Thank you so much. $24.25. Love it. I love numbers. The Sixth Amendment does not require counsel's presence at the exam, guys. So finally, the state seeks to exclude defense counsel from its examination, asserting the defendant has no Sixth Amendment right to the presence of counsel at the examination. It further argues exclusion of counsel is consistent with standard psychology practices and the American Bar Association standards on mental health, which advise that defense counsel should only be present if requested by the evaluator. According to Dr. Redacted, defense counsel's presence would interfere with the validity of the examination. defendant responds, obviously, that he has a Sixth Amendment right to the presence of counsel during the examination because it is a critical stage in the proceedings. Hell yeah, it is. Why wouldn't it be? Particularly given that this is a capital case and death is different from Sixth Amendment purposes. He further notes that having counsel present is consistent with the American Bar Association guidelines for the appointment and performance of defense counsel in death penalty cases. Let's see what the old hippie says. By this holding, the court implied that a examination was a critical stage, but did not pass on the question. Let's see. Was a critical stage triggering the defendant's Sixth Amendment right counsel? Although the defendant did not assert he was entitled to counsel's presence, during the examination, the court added the Sixth Amendment right to assistance of counsel in this critical stage evaluation, including defense features. Those are read together. Okay. Oh, God. Dude, Hitler's fucking crazy, man. There it is. Hitler's like, I'm going to find the fucking case out there that I can do what I want to do. And so basically, in considering whether psychosexual examinations themselves were critical stages implicating the Sixth Amendment, the Court of Appeals observed that the majority of courts have held that while the decision to undergo pretrial psychiatric examinations, which are similar to psychosexual examinations, is a critical stage, the actual examination is not. So he's basically saying the process to decide you are, but not your examination. Let's see if that's what he holds to. You guys, rather, the Sixth Amendment simply guarantees the defendant the advice of counsel prior to submitting to the examination. Wait, what? Listen, you have the right to counsel prior to agreeing to do this shit, okay? So basically, what if Ann Taylor's over here saying, Bryan, you should not do this? Why? And he's over here saying, Ann, I'm innocent. And these people, they're all saying I'm a freak. And I'm not. I had that Asian girl just tugging on my nuts, man. She was acting like a complete lunatic, so I started looking up all this shit. She wanted me to give her my sperm, man. Crystal sent you $34.44 for Happy Mother's Day from Crystal. $34.44, baby. Can you imagine? Think about all the things that we Google. Listen, if Bryan Kohberger did it, like you guys, Google searches to me just like, come on. Absolutely crazy. Let's see. Hitler's just so fucking wordy. Yeah. Let's see. Hitler says, and Simon says, based on the foregoing, state's motion for examination of defendant pursuant to Idaho code and for an extension of time, complete rebuttal penalty phase expert disclosures is granted in part and denied in part. Wait, this is for the fucking penalty phase? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You don't do it. Why wouldn't this happen afterwards? Do you know how hard it is, like, mentally to prepare to, like, be found guilty, that you'd have to, like, do this type of shit? What the fuck? This is Tina with What the Fuck Translation Services. I mean, weird. Yeah, weird. Wow. Next up, and last but not least, certainly not least, probably the most compelling. So do you guys remember? Oh, wrong one. We're going to pull it up on this. Fuck. Damn it. Want to remind everybody of the Franks. So here it is. I want everybody to see this in black and white. Okay. Right here. Detective Payne later points out the defense registered his 2015 white Honda Elantra with Washington State on November 18th. He noted that previously the vehicle was registered in Pennsylvania, which, unlike Idaho and Washington, does not require a front license plate. Defendant contends that although Exhibit A makes it appear that law enforcement was focused on the lack of front license plate early on, it was not until after he was identified through IGG that it became an object of inquiry. Okay. Again, talking about the green Elantra, just to put that in perspective. In neither example has defendant established Detective Payne's investigation timeline to be misleading or false, much less intentionally or recklessly so. There can be no question, according to Hitler, that the defendant was identified in part through the WSU officers' queries and through the suspect vehicle's lack of a front license plate, as observed in surveillance videos from the night of the murders. This is all that the defense has to go to say, you want to talk about that tip you want to give them? Here you go. This is what they can use. You said it yourself, Hitler, right? Here it is. The defendant, we could not win on any of our points because you think, Hitler, that the state got to our client by this type of way. You're so wrong. More importantly, the state comes out and says that, yep, we relied solely. The fact that law enforcement had additional DNA evidence tying defendant to the crime does not render it improper for law enforcement to rely on independent evidence accomplishing the same. He's going to have to eat these words. And if Ann Taylor lets him out of it, I'll be really disappointed. It would arguably be irresponsible for law enforcement to rely solely on DNA evidence without making an effort to corroborate it. Duh. Particularly given the novelty of IgG. Thank you for the omissions of that. Defendant has not established that there is anything wrong with this approach. Indeed, what is important to probable cause is the totality of the evidence once all gathered and examined in light of what that evidence, of that collection of evidence shows. Not looking at it, isolation of each piece of evidence was separately gathered, but moreover, had law enforcement indicated in Exhibit A that the WSU query and lack of a front license plate only came across its radar after defendant had been identified through IgG? Defendant has not explained how this would have eroded probable cause. Are you insane, Hippler? That's the problem, is that law enforcement refused to disclose that they used IgG in the first place to then get to everything else. Indeed, as discussed below, including the IgG evidence would have provided more, not less probable cause. Now, this is absolute ludicrous. Ready? The state, in my opinion, will be forced to go the route of the probable cause. I'm sorry, but Hippler, the way he did his order, and Ann Taylor basically sealed the deal with the line of questioning of the people in hearings up to that point. So here it is. Defendant has not met his Frank's burden on issue 6, the dog barking, which we're going to talk about because it has to do with this timeline. But really quick, look at this. Okay. I just want you guys to see it in black and white. Defendant has not met his Frank's burden on issue 5, misleading timeline. In issue 5, defendant claims that law enforcement created a false narrative of their investigative timeline in Exhibit A so as to make it appear that defendant was identified through their investigative efforts and not, in fact, through IgG. In other words, he argues that law enforcement, having already identified defendant through IgG, tailored their Exhibit A to support probable cause for an already identified suspect, not an unknown suspect. That's not what they just said. That's why I wanted this to be unsealed. What they said is that they made shit up, Hippler. They made shit up. Defendant provides 2 examples of what he contends are misleading timelines about his identification, but these examples fall far short of the Frank standard. First, defendant notes that in Payne's Exhibit A, Detective Payne states that on November 29, 2022, officers from Washington State University queried white Honda Elantras registered at the school and pulled up a 2015 white Elantra with Pennsylvania plates that was registered to defendant. The same day, Detective Payne states another WSU officer was patrolling the area by defendant's apartment and located a 2015 white Elantra with Washington plates. You know who else claims that they tracked down Kohberger's white Elantra? Grower. He did it on December 20th. Get the fuck out of here. He ran the plate and it returned to defendant. Defendant points out that Detective Payne was not even aware of the WSU officer's findings in this regard until December 20th, 2022, after defendant was already identified by IgG. See this date? Very, very interested about that with what that dude was interviewed about. However, he contends Payne's Exhibit A makes it appear that defendant was identified in part through the WSU queries. What do you mean in part? That's how he makes it seem like he was identified, period. Anyways, so, Hitler's like, yeah, right. Sorry. Well, let's talk about this dog barking now. In this issue, defendant challenges omissions pertaining to the barking dog reference in the Payne exhibit. Now, I want to know out there, how many people are dog owners? I was talking to a friend of mine that's a dog owner, and she rescues dogs. She loves fucking dogs, okay? And I said, we really have to talk about this dog issue. Because to the jury, okay, good. So I want all my dog people. You guys will get this. To the jury, anybody that has a dog is going to really hone in on this portion of it. So I think it's important. With that said, here is what Ann Taylor said. It states that at 4:17 a.m., a security camera located in a nearby residence on King Road picked up quote-unquote distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper. I don't hear that. Followed by a loud thud. I hear a dog can also be heard barking numerous times starting at 4:17 a.m. The only other information in the Payne Exhibit A pertaining to a dog refers to the fact that Kaylee that they own a dog. Defendant contends that Detective Payne failed to include 3 allegedly important pieces of information pertaining to the dog. Piece number 1. That the dog heard on the security camera continued to bark for 30 minutes after the suspect left. The Detective Payne conducted a test to determine that the dog was likely outside while barking. This is from Exhibit D13, is a police report authored by Detective Mowry describing the test he and Detective Payne performed to ascertain whether the dog heard on the audio was inside or outside. They didn't test whether it was Murphy or not. Next, that Detective Payne conducted a test to determine, and 3, that Murphy was found without any blood on him, even though the bedroom doors were open where the decedents were found. And they cite Exhibit D15A is a police report indicating Murphy did not have blood on him. And Exhibit D15B is a screen capture of Officer Noonan's body camera when he arrived at the house, showing that Murphy was lying on Kaylee's bed with no blood on him. Why was the dog there when... Unbelievable. Okay, so... Ready. Here we go. According to the defendant, this omitted information would have revealed that whoever was in the house brought the dog back inside after the suspect vehicle left. Memo at page 23. He further argues this information is material and exculpatory because it undermines the narrative and timeline that supports probable cause. So not one time in any of the interviews do we really hear Dylan say anything about the dog. Okay. All my dog people out there. Number 1. Number uno. What would make the dog stop barking? How do you know? Oopsies, I gotta go to this. How do you know the dog barking was Murphy? Okay. However, defendant's arguments assumes, ready, without proof. Like, who needs the proof here? But without proof, okay, there were no doors left open in the home after the suspect left. This assumption is not only speculative, but contrary to evidence in his proffer that the sliding glass door to the residence, the same door toward which DM reportedly saw the suspect walking, was left open. Thus, if the dog heard barking was in fact Murphy, it could well have come back inside through the open door and gone into Kaylee's room on his own, where it evidently remained. There is simply no evidence to adopt defendant's speculation that someone brought Murphy inside after the suspect left the residence. Consequently, defendant has not shown that the failure of law enforcement to so speculate was a material and exculpatory omission that was intentionally or recklessly excluded. Excuse me? These girls are alleged to be in a frozen shock state. This dog has no blood. So you're going to say that the dog didn't go into Maddie's room? Well, I asked a bunch of people that are dog people about this, and they said absolutely not. They said that the dog wouldn't have stopped after 45 minutes, 30 like it. Why would it stop? It would be clawing to get out, the smell of the blood, and then we get into like smelling of the blood. Okay. And then since it's familiar with that home, wouldn't it like attempt to go get help to go down where the girls were? You know, over to like Dylan's room, or going down to like all the way down to where Bethany would have been? Okay. Now the big daddy right here. This is what Hippler is about to get smacked on. Issue 7. The defendant challenges Exhibit A insofar as it discusses data from the defendant's phone, referenced as the 8458 phone in Exhibit A, and conclusions drawn therefrom. He asserts that Exhibit A falsely implies defendant's location on the night of the murders based on improper speculation, misrepresentations, and omissions about 4 topics. Number 1, the geofence return. No one's ever really talked about like the whole geofence return. Number 2, big one here, the timing of the second AT&T warrant. Number 3, the time defendant's phone stopped reporting. And number 4, the cell tower coverage area. Defendant's proffer on each of these topics is insufficient to warrant a Franks hearing. The geofence return assertion was not a false or misleading statement. Defendant first takes issue Detective Payne's assertions regarding the geofence return. In Payne's Exhibit A, Detective Payne informs the magistrate that a query of the 8458 phone in these returns did not show the 8458 phone utilizing cellular tower resources in close proximity to the King Road residence between 3 and 5 a.m. He then states, based on my training experience, blah, blah, blah. Defendant contends that Detective Payne's claim that criminals will shut off or leave their cell phone elsewhere before committing crimes is highly speculative and conclusory. He argues that it is just as likely the phone was not present in the area. You guys, that is so beyond true. Like what Jill Bolton said in the Dateline episode was that if the FBI could not get a warrant to do the IgG stuff, like why wouldn't you just follow the protocol? That means that that means that there's probable cause issue. They couldn't establish probable cause. Bingo! Bingo! They lied in all of the probable cause. All of that stuff is like, that is still that hasn't gone away. That's why I believe all these leaks are happening, because the biggest bombs are brewing and are going to just blow this case like you would never believe it's about to happen. Defendant has not demonstrated the statement was deliberately or recklessly false. Well, he has now. He has now. What Payne Exhibit A shows it that Detective Payne's, based on his training experience, which he's testified is zilch, is none, drew one conclusion about the fact, or drew one conclusion about the lack of a return to the exclusion of other possibilities. Yeah, but he didn't need to do that. That's going to be the whole point, is that they knew that the phone was somewhere else when they wrote this up. While there certainly may be other reasons for the lack of a return, the mere fact that the affiant did not list every conceivable conclusion does not taint the validity of the affidavit. Again, he knew, though. Further, Detective Payne's conclusion was expressly based on his training and experience and conversations with other experts. Bingo, now you fucked. Exactly right there. Bingo. And Bingo was his name. Oh, that's Nick Balance. That's Nick Balance, which further belays any suggestion that it was deliberately or recklessly false. Oh, daddy, these words are just going to come crashing down. Because this is exactly what Cyree is going to prove. So then what happens? This is all, like, this is why I believe Dateline did what they did. Challenge to timing of the second AT&T warrant is conclusory. Defendant next challenges the 1 hour turnaround from when law enforcement received the return on the AT&T first warrant and submitted the application for the second warrant. And that is impossible to plant the points and to create like a drive test and do all that shit. According to the defendant's expert, Thomas, it takes 1 to 2 days at minimum to secure call detail records from AT&T and then convert, analyze, and peer review them. And everybody knows this. That's an expert. Everybody knows this. He surmises that the fact that defendant or Detective Payne was able to complete these tasks in 1 hour means that the FBI has already secured and analyzed the information and provided their analysis to Detective Payne, who simply reported to the magistrate what he was told without telling the magistrate the truth about how the investigation truly unfolded. You know what that would also mean? That when did the FBI do it? When did the FBI do it? Way before. And what did the FBI use? Timing advanced. Boyd Jackson. Nick Balance. This is all lies. All fucking lies. My paper is rainbow. Franks does not contemplate such conclusory accusations. The challenger's attack must be more than conclusory and must be supported by more than a mere desire to cross-examine. What are you talking about, Hippler? You're a judge. Eddie Joe Schmo's a judge, and you've been doing cases for how long? And so you would know how long something like this would take. And for this to happen in an hour, you think that this wasn't done some other fucking way? And this is why Cyree said you have to be like purposely ruling this way not to see the shit that's in front of your face presented by the defense and the prosecution. Like, you have to be looking the other way. Mr. Slavinsky was not involved in the investigation, and his attempt to impute untoward conduct to law enforcement lacks any foundation. Are you fucking kidding me? This is also the same. So Hippler says this, okay? Then they want to have them at the motion in limine, Cyree and Tom, to fucking testify, and he doesn't allow it. Are you out of your fucking mind, Hippler? You don't think that this is going to cause problems? You think that this is going to be on the up and up and that Bryan Kohberger isn't going to have every fucking which way to appeal the fuck out of this? Because you're so wrong. And I don't think that's fair for the families. And I keep saying, if Bryan Kohberger is so guilty, so have some Franks hearings. If some shit gets tossed, okay? If he's so guilty and there's all this evidence against him, we can still get him. But for this to continue on for years and years and years, this is where this is headed. Because we all know that this is a lie. We all know that it's lies. And anybody who can anybody who's saying, I don't care if you think Bryan Kohberger is guilty. Fuck, right now, I could think Bryan Kohberger is guilty. Okay? But when you would read this shit and you would think, okay, wait, this is a huge problem, guys. Okay, like you think that this just happens in this case? Fuck no. This is not okay. As Detective Payne testified at a prior hearing in this matter, he received the return from the first AT&T warrant and immediately turned the material over to FBI agent Balance to begin deciphering it while Detective Payne started on the second. Thank you. Look at you. And you deemed these people credible. So then when Nick Balance is going to take that stand, it's all come crumbling down because it does not matter what Nick Balance says. They have the nuts. The defense has the nuts. It's like you can only bluff so much, okay? When you are sitting at a poker table and you have the best hand out of any possible hand that you know in the game of cards, okay? It doesn't matter how much you try to bluff me when I have you. That's where the defense is. The defense has the prosecution like nuts. And there's going to be no denying this. I mean, Hitler can do whatever he fucking wants, but it's just going to be called back in. And for mainstream media to not talk about this is absolutely, that should worry people. This is what should worry people, is that, wow, wow, the prosecution and the FBI and the police, they all lied. And then people are going to come back at you and say, well, does it really matter? I mean, he's fucking guilty. And it's like, yeah, it fucking matters. What do you mean? This is a very circumstantial case. It absolutely matters. And if you think this is the only case that they do this, then you're the fucking fool. Pity the fool. While defendant may wish to cross-examine Detective Payne on this issue, we don't fuck Payne. Fuck Payne. To cross-examine Payne on this issue, it is not a basis for a Franks hearing. Look at him. Further, even if the FBI had already secured the records prior to receiving the return on the first AT&T warrant, defendant has not shown how the inclusion of this information in Exhibit A would have negated probable cause. A Franks hearing is not warranted. Are you insane? Can you believe that he just wrote that sentence? Further, even if the FBI had already secured the records prior to receiving the return on the first AT&T warrant, even if they got it some other way, defendant has not shown how the inclusion of this information in Exhibit A would have negated probable cause. That's the whole thing, is if you would have included the real way that he got it, it fucking shows, you idiot. Like, do you see how Hitler tried to twist this? Like, okay, even if they would have got him some other way, these cell phone records, right? It still does not negate. Like, it is what it is, meaning Hitler thinks that the fucking phone records show what Payne said, and they don't. Hitler's logic and reasoning skills absolutely fucking blow. I have no idea how he's a judge. Defendant has not shown the alleged misstatement regarding when defendant's phone stopped reporting was intentionally false or exculpatory, because you won't let them. They have shown you. What type of proof do we need? The proof is in the pudding when the prosecution is asking you for a watered down tip, you fucking prick. And that they can't use what they said how they got fucking probable. They can't even use what they said they got probable cause on, because it's going to get blown up. We need you to allow us to say that we got to this fucking cocksucker some other way. Can you give us that? Wait, you want us to just make up a way that you got to the guy that's so fucking guilty? That's not normal. And it's not happening. And I just don't understand why people want to talk about innocent or guilty right now when we have a way larger issue here, which is that this is happening. The government is doing this to us daily in all jurisdictions across the United States of America. That's the issue. Way bigger issue here. It's defendant next asserts that Detective Payne misrepresented the time defendant's cell phone stopped reporting to the network to imply that the defendant was traveling toward Moscow between 2:47 a.m. and 2:54 a.m. when he was not. That's exactly what they did. And they knew. And he knew. They knew that this was not fact. They knew this was a lie. So they said that the phone stopped reporting to the network at 2:47 so that they could have a car that was on camera at 2:52 being this white fucking sedan. Notice how the FBI didn't put it in their report, though. On this point, defendant relies foremost on the affidavit of its expert, Mr. Slavinsky, who states, affiant has found inaccurate information in Officer Payne's affidavit for search warrant, and application for an order for a pen, registry, or a trap and trace device. Payne makes a false statement in his affidavit. Payne states in his affidavit that at approximately 2:47 a.m., the 8458 phone stops reporting to the network. This statement is erroneous. Payne has failed to advise the court of the following. The 2:47 a.m. traffic is a continuous 7-minute stream on multiple towers that ends at 2:54 a.m. Payne does not document this 7-minute traffic. Payne did not inform the magistrate about these handoffs. Nick Balance handoffs, which would have clearly and directly shown him the fact that on November 13, 2022, from 2:47 to 2:54, Mr. Kohberger's device was not heading to Moscow as purported by Payne, but was indeed heading southbound from Pullman, Washington. Heading south. The fact that Payne either disregarded or was not aware of the handoffs and direction of travel of Mr. Kohberger's device gives this affiant grave concern over the lack of training and experience Payne has in mobile forensics and the credibility of his affidavit. And this is where they got Payne to testify that it was all Nick Balance who supplied this information for the search warrant, knowing it was all lies. Then, during the investigation, CyRay found in the discovery forensic reports that were generated by a guy from AT&T named Boyd Jackson. Boyd Jackson works for AT&T, and he does all of the FBI's special needs, basically. Nick Balance, I will put all my chips in, got the timing advance from Boyd Jackson on Bryan Kohberger's cell phone. They were never turned over to the defense, and they were used in part and buried. And this is what the big to-do is right now with all of this. And then to come and hear Steve Gonsalves say when the FBI said, hey, you think we're going to let a quadruple homicide killer fucking go on a technicality? Well, our technicality that they're referring to, the FBI is referring to, are rights. Our rights are a technicality. And I would want to know, if I was the defendant, where this information came from that Steve speaks of. I can't believe that he said that on national television. Defendant's other cellular expert, CyRay, likewise contends he has reviewed multiple search warrant affidavits prepared by Detective Payne, and his statement that defendant's cell phone stopped reporting to the network at 2:47 a.m. is blatantly false and not supported by the AT&T data. In addition to these two expert affidavits, defendant includes in his proffer that AT&T call detail records that purportedly reveal that the actual time the phone stopped reporting to the network was 2:54 a.m. As an initial matter, defendant has not provided the search warrant affidavit identified by Mr. Slavinsky with his proffer. What? Because there is no. Oh my God, what an idiot. The only search warrant affidavit authored by Detective Payne that the defendant has provided with his proffer is Payne Exhibit A, which is dated December 29th, 2022, and accompanied an application for a warrant for defendant's arrest. Are you absolutely on crack? Look at what he tried. Look at these semantics that he's playing. He's saying, you provided us with this, the search warrant for his arrest. What do you think was wrote in the one that was for the AT&T warrant? the same information. The court cannot consider the effect the alleged misstatement would have on probable cause without the correct affidavit before it. Look at this little pussy. I can't. I gotta go. This is so disgusting. This is absolutely sickening what he is saying right here. I cannot believe that people follow mainstream media. This is semantics. What are you talking about, Hippler? That's the Exhibit A. What do you mean? It's wrote in there. Exhibit A has what they're just saying. For the arrest, it's the same fucking thing. It's even worse. That's what you arrested the guy off of. They're using that one because they're basically saying you don't have probable cause to arrest this motherfucker. It's sick. And he's over here saying, I would need to see the affidavit that goes with for the AT&T warrant. Then why don't you ask Payne about it? It's the same one. However, the search warrant affidavit referenced by Mr. Slavinsky is otherwise part of the record in this case as to other motions, and the court will take judicial notice of it for purposes of deciding this issue. Oh, will you? Yeah, because your ass would be grass if you didn't. It still is going to be grass. The court does not find defendant's proffer deserving of a Franks hearing. This is not going to age well. First, defendant has not established the challenged statement is misrepresentation. Oh, okay. Yeah, it did. Because Ashley Jennings, in her oral argument, said, so, okay, what if it's false? Ashley Jennings orally argued that it was false. Okay, so what if it's false? Detective Payne expressly qualified his statement by noting it was an approximation only. It doesn't matter. He knew that it was false. Because it's not his approximation. He didn't get the information. He got it from Nick Balance. So it's Nick Balance's work. As he testified to an earlier hearing in this matter, Detective Payne is not an expert in deciphering CDRs. Thus, he provided the records to FBI agent Balance to analyze and relied on agent Balance's analysis in drafting the pen. Yep, exactly. Exactly. So now it's going to come down to, do you think that Nick Balance is going to lie? Knowing that Cy has the nuts. No. I mean, he can. His career is over. That affidavit disclosed both Detective Payne's reliance on Agent Balance's analysis and Agent Balance's training and experience to the magistrate. Exactly. To the extent the approximation was off, a 7-minute discrepancy, particularly one occurring more than 1 hour prior to the homicides, is not so far outside the approximate window as to render the statement false. You've got to be kidding. It's not about what time the homicides occurred. You are putting a car in Moscow at 3:26 that you are saying is his. You cannot go off of the time that you are saying that the murders happened. You are connecting him to a car at 3:26. And you know this, Hippler. So why are you talking about the time of the crime when you need to be talking about the time that they are saying, hey, 3:26, he's on Indian Hills Drive. And they want to talk about 7 minutes not being a big deal? Oh, okay. I guess that's why you guys think that the murders happen in 2 to 4 minutes. Okay. I would do a motion 25 on his ass. If I was Ann Taylor, I would attempt to get him out. This is obvious. This is crazy. Further, even if the statement could be characterized as false, defendant has not shown it would be intentionally or recklessly so. What are you talking about? Let's say that Nick Balance gives Payne and tells Payne, hey, his phone shuts off. It doesn't shut off until 2:54. And Payne just writes down, well, we're going to say that it was 2:57 because it's moving the other way. So who made the decision to change it? Somebody made that decision, and that's what's going to come out. And if Payne did it, then that means he lied and he perjured himself. Okay. And this is all getting tossed. Or if Nick Balance says, yeah, I told them 2:47, but I knew that the record said 2:54. He's not going to be able to testify as an expert. In fact, not even Mr. Slavinsky goes so far impute this mens rea to Detective Payne. Why would he? He points out that Detective Payne either disregarded or was unaware of the handoff data that would have revealed the correct time the phone stopped reporting. Yeah, duh. Who do you think he's implying then? Just like your stupid ass order implies. Because Detective Payne the whole time was just saying, I don't even know anything. I just got it all from Detective Balance, and Specialist Balance gave me everything because I don't know anything. I've been just doing it for 2 years. I've never even wrote an Apple warrant before. So what do you, I mean, yeah, he's a dipshit. He doesn't know anything. But he's saying that he got the information from an FBI Special Agent Balance who does know what the fuck's up. And so somebody is to blame here, and it's Nick Balance, and you only can ask Nick Balance the question. Based on Detective Payne's self-described lack of expertise in analyzing CDRs, it is reasonable to infer the latter, which amounts to at most negligence. What? Now that's called fucking speculate. You're speculating here. This is why you would have a Franks hearing to see what the hell has gone on here. Further, Detective Payne relied on Agent Balance to decipher the CDRs, which he is entitled to do in executing probable cause affidavits. Yeah, but Agent Balance worked with them and was there working together. And he knows that it didn't stop. He had this. That's why he's saying they had the timing advanced records. And this is why they're trying to say that they didn't have them. Okay? Because if you have the timing advanced AT&T records, it says it on there, you guys. Okay? And guess what? I think Cyray has them. I think Cyray has them. What if Cyray has a relationship with the FBI? I mean, AT&T. And he got shit from AT&T that mirrored what oh, I already gave it. Here, I already gave it to Nick Balance. Here, I'll give you what I gave Nick. And he's like, wait, what? You gave it to Nick already? You guys, this is going down with some crazy ass shit. And so I just don't. This is nuts. But this isn't what you're going to hear. How doesn't. Wasn't the whole purpose of media in the first place to hold our government accountable? Isn't that what the whole purpose of the media was for? What was the purpose of the media? What's the purpose of having public trials? What is the purpose of this all? The state is full on lying, 1,000%. And they've known it from jump. There has been no probable cause in this case. And it's going to be a sad day, but I believe it's coming. And I don't think there's anything that Joshua Hurwitz can do about it. But the purpose of the media was to hold the government accountable. And all I see the media doing is looking away How come all these media outlets that are mainstream, why are they all coming to YouTube? Why are they all coming to YouTube? Finally, defendant has not shown Detective Payne's mistake in identifying the quote-unquote handoff data to be exculpatory. What? Mr. Slavinsky claims it was exculpatory because a correct interpretation of the data would show the device was not heading to Moscow as purported by Payne, but was indeed heading southbound from Pullman, Washington. Hippler says there are two problems with this assertion. First, the pen register affidavit represents that the device was traveling south at 2:47 a.m. when, according to Detective Payne, it last reported to wit on November 13th, 2009, at approximately 2:42. The 8458 phone was utilizing cellular resources that provided coverage to his apartment. Hereafter, the Kohberger residence at approximately 2:47 a.m., the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that provided coverage southeast of the Kohberger residence, consistent with the 845 phone leaving the Kohberger residence and traveling south through Pullman. Through Pullman. Through Pullman, and being like in Pullman is different than like being south of Pullman. Thus, because the exculpatory information identified by Mr. Slavinsky appears to have been represented in the affidavit, he's saying that he represented it. The court is at a loss as to how a correct statement of the time the phone stopped reporting the network would affect probable cause. And this is why you need to be removed from this case. He's at a loss. He's at a loss to understand. It can't be suspect vehicle 1, you cocksucker. That's what it means. Because there's not enough time to get over there and to do all of that shit. And to be the 326 car. And we know that it's not, because we have proven that the 4:01 a.m. Ridge Road sighting is none other than the 2016 green Elantra belonging to Noah Rice. Don't know who was driving it that night, but that is the vehicle with the wrapped license plate. Okay. Now, the FBI did all this, Moscow did all of this, and you want me to believe everything else is just on the up and up and that this kid did it, but I'm just supposed to say there's all this overwhelming evidence. You know what? They sure made Sheldon Jeter Jr. look guilty as fuck off of what they did. And they did it by framing him. They did it by burying evidence. They did it by changing cameras to certain times that they weren't. They did it by lying about when they obtained surveillance footage on the night of the murders to say that, oh, that's the vehicle that we saw on the surveillance cameras that we were just checking out over there at Convenient Mart. They never went even in Convenient Mart. They never got those freaking cameras until hours after they were ever at Sheldon's house. It's cases like that even if Bryan Kohberger is guilty, it's cases where people aren't, that you cannot do shit like this. The FBI was involved in every aspect of this case that is absolutely a fucking mess. When I say a mess, it's a lie. And I have no idea why a judge who clearly is not giving Bryan Kohberger a fair shake, because he would have allowed Bryan Kohberger's experts to testify and to show this shit at a suppression hearing or at a motion limine for a death penalty case, is absurd. And I understand that you want to get justice for 4 victims, but you don't think any of this is going to come out during a trial? And then even if Bryan Kohberger is found guilty, you don't think that this is going to be appealed and won on all of these different areas? It's just really, this case is not going anywhere anytime soon, even after it's over, unless it's a not guilty verdict. Then yeah, I mean, it would have to stop because he can't be, it's double jeopardy. I mean, then we can talk about civil cases, I guess. This isn't how you arrest people. This isn't how you do things in America. And it royally sucks for the parents and the victims, because if this person is involved and he walks because of something like this, and that's where you have the FBI saying, don't worry, we're not going to let him go on a technicality. And I think that that's just wild. No, guess what? You can babysit him the rest of the fucking days of his life to make sure that he is watched round the clock. The FBI, this is what you can do because you fucked all of this up. There's a reason that Dateline dropped everything that they did. There's a reason there's been leaks ever since March. It was ever since the state and the families found out that the defense has the nuts. These leaks have stuff that people have had for a long time. It was like, go ahead, just go fucking ham. But you want to know what hasn't been leaked? Nothing that the defense has. That's called integrity. So everybody that wants to give the defense lawyers a hard time, yeah, what I see is integrity. Peace out, Girl Scouts. Thank you so much to the moderators, moms out there. Happy Mother's Day. The fathers, we get to party hardy on your guys' day as well. Honey Bear, 28 months. Lana, do you think more than one person killed them? I do. I think that more than one person was involved, even if it was Bryan Kohberger. He is not the only one. 100. And I think that the evidence shows that. Sunny Days in chat has a video call with BK tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. She's looking for any questions to ask him. What? I highly doubt that's going to be happening. Super sticker, Lisa, $9.99. Thank you so much. Lisa Marie, super sticker of $149. Thank you so much. I sent a super sticker as well, but it is gone. It shouldn't be gone. Is it there? Lisa Baker, welcome. Nurse Meg, $3.99 super sticker. Liv. New member. Welcome. Shake it. And then happy Mother's Day. Thank you for all your hard work. Nurse Meg, $13.99. I try to catch all these. Happy Mom's Day, LO. Thanks for your fight for truth and justice, TNT Home Team Productions. And all this talk about Ted Bundy. I mean, he started Googling whatever he was Googling, just so we're clear, right when school started. August like 16th or whatever, 17th, 18th, whenever it was. Yeah. I don't know. What do you want a criminology student to fucking Google? His motor skills aren't too fine if he can't even type Ted Bundy with his thumbs and without hitting other buttons. So there's that there too. So yeah, we had about 1,900 in here tonight. So hit your thumbs up on the way out. Push the truth. This is the truth. You know, if Bryan Kohberger did this, Bryan Kohberger should fucking go to prison for the rest of his life. But there's a right way and a wrong way in the United States of America. And I believe that you can get guilty people the right way. So yep, it is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, not probable cause. Yep. Who would have ever thought that pictures that you take in your phone, literally, oh my God, can you believe he was taking selfies? Dude, everybody takes selfies. I can't even how do you, wow. Oh my God, can you believe he was wearing a hoodie and put his hood up? Oh my God, every live I do, I have a hoodie on and wear my hood up. Look out. Oh God. These criminals are heartless and evil. There is guilty and there is proven legally guilty. There's a lot of things. I Googled my own name and it was in January when it was cold and I was wearing I've Googled my name before. Yep. Sure have. The times have changed. All right, peace out. Good night, guys. Thank you so much. Whew.